Vancouver and British Columbia have nourished many writers in which we can all take pride, and I think none more so than WAYSON CHOY. And I don't see any better evidence of that than a room which is filled with people, all of whom seem to have smiling faces, which is really nice. Not only did WAYSON grow up here, his best-known novel, The Jade Peony, published in 1995, and his childhood memoir, Paper Shadows, in 1999, speak to his doing so. He belongs to this place where we are this evening. WAYSON's books, very importantly, narrate all our stories, whatever our backgrounds. The Jade Peony and its sequel, All That Matters, along with his autobiographical Paper Shadows, with its follow-up, Not Yet, a memoir of living and almost dying, wrestle with what it means to belong to this place where we live. Some of us feel unwanted by those who consider themselves in charge. Others of us have multiple identities that threaten to fracture our commitment to the place we call home. I intended to conclude by arguing that WAYSON's books have become required reading for all Vancouverites, British Columbians, and Canadians. I then realized on doing some library research, this is already the case. How many of you have read a book by WAYSON? Look at the hands. It's just yeah, there we are. And what is in the library? At the Vancouver Public Library as of this afternoon, almost all of the 38 print and electronic copies of WAYSON's books are checked out. And there are 33 holes on them when they come back. So I thought to myself, maybe this is only because it's Vancouver and we like to read books, or maybe because WAYSON is here. So I looked at the Toronto Public Library, discovered they put us to shame, they have 283 copies of his 4 books. But even then, they have 8 holes on them. So many are out that people can't read them as fast as they want. So I went to the Ottawa and the Calgary libraries, and all copies of his best-known Jade Peony are checked out with multiple holes on them. WAYSON CHOY is, in other words, not only a Vancouver and a British Columbian, but he's also a national treasure. That's what makes him a special. It makes it a special privilege to present him, and I get to retire as a recipient of the 22nd Annual George Woodcock Lifetime Achievement Award with this little proclamation and a check. WAYSON.
Get one more photo, please? Sure. Great.
Both of us.
We're ready.
Make me famous.
We're working on it.
We'll work at it.
I assume I'm supposed to say a few words. We're out of here by 11 o'clock, I promise you. They thought they would be long-winded. I guess I could be very formal and thank a whole group of people who first taught me English in the schools, public schools, when I was a Chinatown boy. I remember, if you will join with me in my memory, Miss Doyle. Some of you may have remembered Miss Doyle. Right. And, oh, what a mean, awful person she was to insist that I learned the English language. And then when I went home to use it, they said, what are you doing, talking no Chinese anymore? Well, of course, I was that generation that was caught in between. And I slowly realized that I will be surrendering my background to become a Canadian. But in those days, I would be called a Canadian Chinese, or, if you want to look the other way around, a Chinese Canadian. What it meant was I would be a human being, and one day it will not have to be hyphenated. Well, today is the day I feel like you. Being a Canadian is to be a part of everything and every history, native and otherwise, legal and illegal, because many Chinese people came over here under what are shady names and shady terms. The labor was cheap, we were expendable, but now and then some of us became part of the human race that was to be Canada. And today there are immigrants coming here that we may be biased against out of our own fear and ignorance in small pockets through certain towns and cities and villages. But the majority of us now realize that we have an exceptional opportunity to make of this country, where lions and lambs, sheep and shepherds can be together and create a country that's worth an example to so many others. We, of course, are fortunate. I have to tell you, sometimes when I read my own books, I say, boy, did I have it easy, because all I had to do was write about the history. I didn't necessarily suffer it. I don't believe in suffering. First of all, let's get this together here. But I do believe that there were others before us, before your coming and your own coming. Sacrifices have been made. Please remember, if we aren't the ones who made the sacrifice, we have to remember those who did. Why? Because then this is why our life is meaningful. They thought we would matter. They thought we would make a difference, that we might be beloved and worthy of a country from which others may say, gosh, I wish I could get to Canada. Well, so it seems much of that is true, but we still have pockets of indignation and anger about newcomers and fear that we might be the lesser or the minority or whatever, because we tend to associate with different levels of socioeconomic belonging. But get rid of that. That's what literature is about. Literature is about those who write the stories that make you feel that there are no outsiders in the world. They are you. And if they were lonely, you have been lonely. And if you felt lost and not belonging, well, guess what? We're all human. I don't expect that we could love everybody. In fact, I don't like a lot of people. And I have often thought in my gentle way of, for example, when a student, I was a teacher, and I had to endure some abuse periodically, because students, as I taught into the college in the later years and recently, are very willing to swear at you now as part of the natural breath they take. Do I have to do this homework? No, you don't. And in my head, I'm saying such awful things to them. But the smile confuses them, and you know, you're supposed to love your enemy, it will drive them crazy. So among my crazy students are those who discover that when they read the literature of other people and other places and times, they have entered a world where they also belong, because they learn to identify with people who need the same things they have not understood, they desired most of all. In healthy people, it is the sense of belonging. In healthy people, it is the sense of respecting others. I come from a family that has had a mixed history, and whose family hasn't in every way. I love it when people think their family was all in a kind of lockstep, ordinary reality where, you know, people married legitimately, all this, and if you took any blood traces of who came from what and from where, guess what? Some of you are related to me and you didn't know it. And some of you are related to the person behind you and you probably suspected. In other words, our lives are full of drama and intrigue. And what literature is about is the time and the chance to kind of swallow your pride, humbly look at the world as it is if you were telling the truth about Auntie Jane and Uncle Tom, and if you were looking carefully at what the family won't talk about. I have to tell you, If you want to write a good book, dig up the hot bits. Because that is where you learn that somebody survived so that you can have some of the things you consider worthy having. And that you have an example of that sacrifice. Right now, I am kind of easily tearing up because my very favorite Aunt Mary Lowe, has been sliding away. And she's not well, but she is beloved of her family. She has set an example for her family and for me to understand one can have everything even when one seems to have nothing. I am just so pleased. I almost died a few times, by the way. I say this because the drugs were wonderful. You know, because you go, oh, is this, you know, and if you read my books, you will discover that I had dialogues with myself. And I was in a semi-comatose form of consciousness, and I could hear people talking and they didn't know it. And I could maybe move my eyelids and glimpse that here these two nurses were talking. And I thought, oh, they're going to say something profound, because here I am. I'm supposed to be dying, and I can hear this. And they were telling me, or not telling me, but they were telling each other, there was a sale on stockings at the Eaton Center. Well, I thought I was important. But I agree that if there's a sale on stockings and you need them, go for them. Well, of course, and then there were friends who came to me in the darkness of my emerging from bad health to worse to good to maybe, 50-50, who shouted my name and kept me from sinking into that darkness from which I was very, very tired. And then someone said to me, "Don't die!" And I was startled. And I wasn't sure who said it, but it sounded like the voice of the old Chinese who occupied the Gimyanjian sausage factory where my father lived and my mother lived. And I was raised while my mother made the Chinese sausages, string after string. There were so many phallic symbols in my life. I can't, well, that's why I'm a writer, of course. Symbols are very important, and as a gay man, I don't know. But I do know that the miracle is that life is meaningful, and when you least think it is, think again. Somebody wants you to know that you matter. I think when you read literature and you read the work of other people that you might come to understand, you're part of a chain of beings who are saying, I will survive, I will not surrender. In offering me this chance to be with you and the generosity of the patrons of this library, oh my gosh, you're so rich and so wonderful. I wish you more riches and more wonderfulness, because you set the example by which those of us with our pennies can also contribute. You know, if you know how to read, I say to you, because this was on the stickers of cars in Toronto when we had a teacher's strike, and the sticker said on the bumpers, if you can read this, thank a teacher. Well, I say, if you can love another, thank those who love you. Because we understand now it matters. Don't feel disheartened or discredited or in any way as if you didn't matter. Some of the teachers that taught me I loathed and hated and despised when I was in my elementary. Oh, Miss Doyle. Can you ever, I thought I would write about her and take my revenge. And you know what happened? When I began to write about her, my grown-up self said, oh, she did that to you, did she? Well, look at what you've become. You know your damn grammar. And you know that she meant you better learn it, and then onwards. Well, my Chinese grammar still comes through. I have trouble with tenses. I have trouble with pronouns, because in Chinese we don't have he or she. And that goes being gay, it really is confusing. So all I can tell you is, There has been a mixture of puzzlement, mosaic of parts and pieces, just like your life. I want to say most of all to you, if my story matters at all, it's because yours does too. Tell it, preserve it, pass it on. Not all the good stuff, but the stuff that you here right now have survived and made a difference, and know in your life who are the heroes of your life. Because in a way, if you don't understand it, your being here tells me you are heroes to some other people. You had the wit, the intelligence, the sense to realize this may be an important event because somebody told some stories that matter to you. Well, where are your stories? I want to hear all the hot bits, no holds barred. I want to hear that you understand you have survived them, that there was humiliation, that there was shame, that you too were guilty, and you too realize you still matter. You see, it's not perfection that makes literature, it's our imperfection that makes perfection possible. So as Leonard Cohen said, you know, in the darkness and so on and so forth, and there's a crack in the universe, well, that's how the light gets in. And today, I have to tell you, the world is ablaze for me, and I thank you very much. And take the books out, and don't bring them back because they have to buy new ones. All right? Thank you.